following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Veterans Forum. Today is a very special day and we're doing a remote here in the New Hampshire State Veterans Hospital in Tilton, New Hampshire. A wonderful small town that is absolutely great, and the facilities here are fantastic. We're lucky and we have a lot of people here we hope will want to share their experiences with you. The show is all about. It's a program started by the Library of Congress in the year 2000, wherein they've asked all of the local cable television stations throughout the country if they could and would make their facilities available for recording the veterans' histories as told by the veterans. To wit, it's the history reported by the guy or gal who made it. Now, as far as who's available, we hope any guy or gal who served in any of the wars from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and all the others in between, if they can and will, come and share their experiences here in a televised interview. That data will be sent to the Library of Congress for inclusion in their major program called the Veterans History Project. Now, my name is Bob Stevens, and I've had the honor, really, of doing this show since the year 2007. I started out in Massachusetts, and now we're transferred and living here in the state of New Hampshire. All we can do is ask you, but if you look at it this way, it'll help answer the question I think every guy and gal who served anywhere was asked by either friend or family, what did you do in the war? Well, old guys like us, we have to go back and remember which war you're talking about. And then we could, if we felt like it, it would take a lot out of your mind because you could remember and go back in those days. And we've learned some wonderful things. A lot of what we've been told in these programs, and you can see them yourself, will never be in a history book, but they're the real little nits and gritties of you that everybody seems to have that all of a sudden come to mind as important in their lifestyle. Before we start today's show, though, I want to show this. I've been carrying it for quite a while. It's a special program. It's a telephone link. Number is 211. 211. You dial that in any phone in the state of New Hampshire, and it'll set you in touch with this cadre of people. Now, you probably can't read them all, but they are set up to answer any and all questions that you may have or need help in getting, or your friends may think you need some help. That number again, remember it, 211. Okay? Now, we have a real good one today. Some fellow who did a few things a few years ago. I'll ask Harry to introduce himself, and then we'll get the show on the road. Are you ready? Let's go. Harry, would you tell us your name and spell it, the last name?
My name is Happy Harry Trott. It's actually a nickname that was given to me years ago. After I got out of the Navy, I became a professional boxer. And I was the Junior Buck Championship of the Pacific Coast and Pacific Fleet at that time. And I was in a contest in the Civic Auditorium in San Francisco. And when I won the championship, Harry James and his orchestra was playing there.
Wow.
So about 10,000 there. I went up to the stage to receive my prize, and Harry James asked me my name, and I told him Harry James Trott, and he said, well, you got the same name as me. And I kiddingly said to him, yeah, but you got something I haven't got, Betty Grable. Well, he turned around and said, Betty, she was out back. He yelled, Betty, I got a pantyhose here. Come on out. So Betty Gray will come out from behind the curtain.
Did she hang one on you?
Yeah, and give me a kiss and a hug, you know, or something like that. And so that was interesting. That was one of my interesting experiences.
Okay, now, can you tell us branch of service you were in and service dates, if you will, so we get a handle around it?
1943, I was in the U.S. Navy. I went to
All right, now, what I'm going to try and do is ask you to tell us about you, how you came to be. For example, you know, where and when were you born? What was your life like as a kid growing up before you went in the service? Where you lived, how you went to school? Do you have any family members, brothers and sisters, and so on? You know.
I was born in 1926, January 8th of 1926. I weighed 2 pounds 8 ounces.
Wow.
At that time, they didn't have incubators.
Were they wrapped in a warm blanket or something?
No, they wrapped me in newspapers and put me in a shoebox,
Oh.
and then put me in another.
Okay, it
That
worked.
was my incubator,
Okay.
you know? So like I kept kidding my mother for years, there my trouble is she left me in too long. I was half-baked.
And never grew out of it. Now, where in, you said you were born where? You didn't tell us where.
Oh, Salem, Mass.
Salem,
At
okay.
Salem Hospital. But then, of course, I got married.
Oh, whoa, slow down. You were just born. We know where you're born, but I asked you, how was your life growing up as a kid? What was going on in the family? How did you live? Do you have any brothers and sisters? Any members of your family in the service?
There was 5 of us kids, and 3 girls and 2 boys. You know?
Okay.
And
How was life growing up back in the
I was the
Depression?
oldest, you
Okay.
know, and the smallest.
No, 2 pounds, you can't get too. Okay. Now, how was it in school?
I always showed up for recess and vacation.
But how can you show up vacation? There's nobody there.
Well, I went there. That was the only time the Tronus officer knew when to find me. And he was my uncle, the
Really?
Tronus officer, yeah. And Charlie used to be a World War I in the Navy. He was a boxer, a fighter on a boxing team. So what he would do with me, rather than go to my mother and tell her that I played hooky or something like that.
Was it very often you did that?
Oh, yeah,
I mean, you
often.
sound like you were a constant dropout.
Oh yeah. So I didn't like studying. I liked the girls, you know. But I liked studying the girls. But anyway, he would invite me down to a cellar at night, and then he'd beat the heck out of me with the boxing gloves.
And showing you how to spar and so
Yeah.
coaching you along.
Yeah. He didn't know what he was doing with my future, but that was it. So, and then when I joined the Navy, I joined the boxing club, and they had an
Okay.
instructor there.
Let's get through school first. You keep jumping years ahead out of time. I'd like to know how it was in school. Were you a good student? When you were there, you had to do something. Did you graduate from high school?
No,
You didn't? Or you drop out?
I was in my second year in vocational school, and when I left in the Navy,
You were right from school into the Navy? What age?
17,
You had to have someone sign up, or you didn't?
my mother and father had to sign up so I could go to the Navy.
Okay, now did your uncle have to sign too as a truant officer?
No.
Now I know where the heck he's going.
No. You know,
Why the Navy?
I don't know. I just, naturally Salem is a
Oh, seaside town, yeah.
seaside town, you know. And I own quite a few boats myself, and
Were you a good sailor or motorboats?
motorboats. I wouldn't say I was ever a good sailor.
But you're here, so you must have been
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, when you joined the Navy, where'd you go and how'd you get in?
I went to Great Lakes outside Chicago there.
And would you come in from Boston? Where, did you get a Fargo building or what?
I joined in the post office down in
Federal Square. Okay, all right.
at Salem, Mass.
Uh-huh.
And I left on my birthday from Salem, Mass. And it went direct to the Green Bay, Wisconsin.
How'd you go down to Boston or, and go back by train?
Took the train all the way to.
Okay.
And then after 90 days of boot camp, I got a 30-day leave. And
Let me
so
stop you right there. One good question. How did you feel and how did you react the first couple of days after you were in there in the boot camp? You know, going from civilian to a place now where you had to obey every darn instruction you were given. And as far as how'd you make out?
all right, I guess, because I liked it.
Okay, that's fine.
You know? Thing is, you have to like it.
Well, you got two choices: either like it or go to the brig.
Right. They tried to put me in it one time in San Francisco after I come back from overseas. I was stationed in Treasure Island, where they had the World's Fair, right off of San Francisco Bay. And I was stationed there. And I was attached to a unit. We were SPs on Market Street, the main street. We used to take armbands, SPs, and go up and give them to the bartender and put them under the bar. And the billy club would go on leave.
Oh, come on. And never got caught?
No, no.
Okay, well, let's back up a bit. You're still in boot camp.
Yeah.
Now, what did you then do when you got through your leave and came back? Did you go to special schools? What kind of training did you get after that? Or what did you look for?
I volunteered for submarine duty at that particular point, but I didn't get it. But I got shipped out overseas to Australia. On the way over to Australia, we stopped at New Zealand for a stop-off point, and in between that, I suppose I should say that after my 90 days in boot camp, I graduated.
Okay.
And I had my 30 days, and I was coming back. This was my first experience with a wound. So I was coming back, and I had a layover 2 hours in Chicago. And I looked across the street, there was a bar. It was called Al's or something like that. And I said, well, I only got $5 to my name. I ought to be able to get a beer anyway, you know, so for $5. So I went across the street, I ordered a beer, I put my money on a bar, and when it came, the bartender pushed my money away. He says it's on that blonde over there.
Oh?
Yeah. So
Now remember, this is a family program.
yeah. Okay. I'll try and keep it that way. So anyway, he says on her, so I drank mine, I thanked her. So I drank a couple more, she bought them. So now it's getting time to leave, so I thought I'd go over and thank her on the way out and explain to her I didn't have much money to return the favor, you know. So I bent over to the booth, and she grabbed me by the neck and pulled me to the other side of her at the table to sit down. Well, I was really shaken up. She was old enough to be my mother, but...
Whoops. I was wondering when we were going to get around to
that. So anyway, I thanked her very much. I said all I had was $5. She said, don't worry. Then when she found out I was a virgin, and that she was more interested in me, and then she says to me, how'd you like to go next door to the hotel?
Uh-huh.
And I says to her, well, I can't afford the hotel or anything. Oh, don't worry, she says, I got it.
Oh,
So we went next door. When we were in the door in the hotel, the guy in the hotel called her by name. He must have known her. So anyway, we went down the hall, and we got to a door, and she took a key out and opened it. So she must have had a regular room there.
yeah.
So I figured I was just which number for the day, you know. So anyway, so up until that time, I had never had sex. I must have enjoyed it because I never stopped. From that
Well,
time
let's stop right there. Just as I say, there are some things even we can't talk about. Okay. Now, when you get back to the base, where did you go when you reported for your real duty? You said you shipped out, but how?
I shipped out for Australia
Okay.
on a troop ship. I think it was a James Madison, not sure, but and then we stopped in Auckland, New Zealand.
Now, where'd you sail from? San Francisco?
Yeah,
Okay. You went to Pearl, or did you go bypass Pearl?
and then we stopped in Auckland, New Zealand. Then we went direct to Brisbane, Australia.
And how long did it take you? A couple of days? A couple of months?
Well, I was there for the rest of my tour. That was my home base.
Okay.
That's where the subs tied up. And the Fulton was right here, and then all the subs were beside her.
All tied together?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway, like I say, I just go and bring in torpedoes and food supplies aboard. One day, an announcer come on the PA.
Now, this is when you were on the Fulton, I believe.
Yeah, I
You were
was on
assigned to the Fulton. Okay.
Yeah. PA system said they wanted 2 volunteers for sub duty, so I wanted sub duty, so I volunteered. I got my jacket from the yeoman, took it aboard, he gave it to the yeoman on the sub, and he in turn threw it on his desk. He said the skipper will speak to you when you get out to sea, you know. After about 10 hours out, he wanted to talk to me, so I went down to the control room, and then the skipper, you know, he said, everyone's life depends on their doing their job, you know. I said, yes, sir, yes, sir. But I didn't know what I was going to do. I just volunteered. So anyway, the soundman says, high-speed screws coming at us. The skipper says to me, Trott, see that space over there on the deck? Yeah. Go over there and sit there and don't you move. So then he turns around to the soundman. He says, something, wanted to know what particular on the screws, because we were 100 feet down in the water. And he figures the only thing it can be is torpedoes from a submarine firing at us.
While you were moored?
No, we were in the water.
Oh, because you didn't get us out to water. Okay.
But we were 100 feet deep in the water. So anyway, he turns it around, he sat down, so I sat down. He tells the torpedo man, while I'm sitting there waiting for to get blown up, I hear one torpedo goes by one side of the conning tower.
You could hear it inside, huh?
Yeah, and then none goes by. Then the skipper turns around and says to the torpedo man, he says, fire 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't know what's going on, really. But the torpedo men didn't know what was going on. He turns around, he says to the skipper, where? Where am I going to fire them? He says, right straight down the wake of those fish that he's fired at us. if with any luck, those torpedoes will run right back to their home and sink to them. So he did. And it seemed like it was forever. I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden I hear bang, bang, explosions and grinding, metal grinding up as it goes down in the ocean to the bottom, you know. So the first thing we ever sunk was a submarine and another sub. I'll always remember that.
Well, how about you told us earlier, let's just show you something on the other side. When you first reported aboard and you were talking to the skipper, didn't you say he told you to man the bow planes or something?
Oh, yeah,
Tell the rest of the world about that.
Yeah, right. Well, actually, so I looked right at the air and he says to me, "What's the matter?" I says, "Where's the bow planes?" He says, "They're behind you." So I turned around, I put my hands on him, then I leaned back and he says, "What's wrong?" I said, "What do I do with them?" Then he swore at me in every language you could think of, upside and down. He said, "Didn't you go to submarine school?" I says, "No." He says, "How the hell did you get here?"
I answered the call.
Yeah, you called me. So anyway, that was interesting. But I was on 4 subs in a short time, really 3.
Now, did they pass you from one to the other to get rid of
but
you, or you asked?
they didn't pass the information on to the next guy.
Well, they just kept pushing you about, huh?
Just pushed me about.
Now, they were all homeboarded in Brisbane?
Yeah, we were all stationed, yeah.
Okay. Now, how many patrols did you run on the 4 submarines?
1 patrol on each.
Oh, and then they got rid of you. So.
And,
Okay, but during any of the patrols, did you have any actions, any activity?
oh yeah, we sunk 250,000 tons of Japanese shipping.
Wow. Can you tell us about any of those runs?
Yeah, one experience I had was that about 3 days before, I want to go into this one here, there was a transport with 10,000 Japanese troops on it, and we sunk it. It was the Kansai Maru, and we sunk it with all hands. About 3 days later, I'm on lookout on a conning tower, and I saw a rowboat or a lifeboat, you know, in the distance. So we called the skipper. Then we very carefully approached it because we didn't want to make sure that there wasn't a sub out there watching for us.
Bait, you never bait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we finally pulled up by it, and I jumped off the boat into the dory, and you know, there was a couple of things there, like a gun, a 9mm or something, and a Japanese flag, and a sword and stuff like that.
All on one little boat?
Yeah, I wanted to get a souvenir. So there was a leather purple bag, and I got it in my hand here. And the lieutenant commander says, "What do you got there, Trott?" I says, "I got a bag here." He said, "Let's see it." So he took it up, he looked at it, and it was all logs about where the last place the ship was. And so he hands me back the bag, says, "You can have this," and he takes it back to the skipper, and now we knew where all the Japanese ships were, you know.
Was that a manifest for all the ships in the area,
Yeah,
or just
yeah.
a lucky find?
Yeah, right.
Now, where was that? Any idea what atoll or island it was near, or what part of the ocean?
Yeah, no.
Near New Guinea, beyond New Guinea, up Solomons?
It was probably by the Solomons, I would say. And then of course, I ran into the problem on the Scamp. I lost that sub with all hands. Got sunk with all hands.
You were transferred off it, though, obviously.
Yeah, just before they went out. And of course, you know how everyone goes by, and you're on another ship behind it. And all guys go by, they're going on R&R, and they're all waving and yelling at me, we're going on leave, and like that, you know. And they come back, and they go out, and they hit a mine up in Tokyo Harbor there, and with depth charge, and they went down with all hands.
No survivors?
Yeah.
And what ship did you go on? What sub next then?
Then, let's see. Then we were on the Godfish and the Gato. Two others.
Well, yeah, these are what you told me of. I'll leave here. The Scamp, the Gato, and the Garfish.
No, that's Godfish.
Oh, Guardfish. Okay, excuse me.
Right. But anyway, so, of course, my worst loss was the Scamp, because I knew all the guys aboard it, not well, because I had only been at
Yeah,
one.
but you're still part of the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but what I understood, they went back into Pearl for a refit on the pit log to make sure it set good and all that. But of course, they hit a mine, and that doesn't help you there.
So can you tell us what the pit log was? What's its function?
The pit log.
You told me about that before.
It tells you how close a depth charge is.
Well, what is it? Is it a meter, a can, or submarine periscope, or what?
It sets down below the boat. It's like a hearing. When depth charges go off, the first click is it goes click. If you don't hear another click following that, you better hold on to both.
She's going to blow.
Yeah, because that's close. You know,
Yeah.
it goes click, click. If you hear click and you don't hear a second click, you can bet that thing's almost on top of you.
So how and what did you do? Is it just recording something, and you have a board you're reading against? What's the action?
Well, once you get it rigged up, the pit log tells you actually how close they are.
Yeah.
But
Is
when it's not set up or rigged up for battle stations, it hangs down below the sub.
Oh, okay, it's outside.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So
all
now
right.
it gives you the pressure of a depth charge going out, throws it right up through the roof. But anyway, on that one there, and then I got stationed after the third one. I got stationed on a tin can, the Drake 366. We made a couple of landings up in New Guinea there, and
Were you convoying troops, or you just offshore bombarding?
no, we took the Marines in on an island called Christmas Island. It was funny. We shelled the heck out of it, out of the island. For 40,000 Marines went in. When I came here, a Marine that lives here came up and found out I was on a sub and on a destroyer, and he looked me up. He wanted to know if I knew about the landing at Christmas Island.
Oh,
I said, oh yeah. He said, you know, you're the first person I ever met, he says, that made that landing besides me.
Yeah.
And he says it was 40,000 Marines. But he said it was useless. We could have bypassed that aisle without even landing. What was in it? Yeah.
Was it in kind of a naval base or airfield or something?
They had a supply base or something like
Okay.
that.
A resupply base, but you need it in the line to keep
Yeah.
stuff going.
So anyway, of course, our job is not the question. Ours is about to do or die.
Now, when you went to shelling, like, what was your battle station? You went on the pit log all the time. What were you doing as a bosun?
Standing lookout when we were on the service,
Okay.
you know. And I don't know why, because you take a submarine, all ships pitch this way. A submarine rolls this way. So if you're in a high sea, and you're up there, and you're on lookout, your sub rolls all the way over here.
Good chance to unlunch.
It rolls back the other way. All you can do is see over the next wave, you know. So if it's all right if you're watching for planes, but that's about all it's good for, you know. Of course, nowadays you don't have to worry about it. The subs they got today, they go down and you come up in Alaska.
Yeah.
We could only stay down 24 hours.
On the old diesel ships then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have to come out and charge our batteries, you know.
Do you have any mishaps surfacing, going down? Have your
No,
intakes managed?
It's the hardest thing is getting back down, is because you only have 10 seconds to clear the bridge when they
Dive.
that horn goes off. You better move. If you're in a brisk wind, you sometimes don't hear that horn like you'd like to hear it, you know. So when you go down, in order to get down in the sub, one guy goes down first, the next guy comes down, he gets on his shoulders, and then the other one on his shoulders. So they lean down when they feet hit the bottom, they bend over and they keep sliding off the guy.
Okay, peeling off.
Yeah, you know.
Everybody gets stuck somewhere halfway down if I get to pull the hatch.
Yeah. The last guy, that's his job, to pull it shut
Yeah.
and lock it.
You ever had any mishaps at all?
None of that, no.
Good.
I don't think I had mishaps, but I got transferred to the destroyer I told you about after my last sub, and we went out and made that landing at Christmas Island, and we were firing it at the planes coming in, and they were coming at us like kamikazes, like, you know. And I remember I was on a 20 millimeter, and I got this guy going over me. And he was so close, I could look up and see the pilot, you know.
Wow.
And then he went down on the other side of me. And of course, most naval battles only last 10 or 15 minutes, that's all.
Use it.
So all I can remember is firing that 20 millimeter and loading and firing. I was 5 miles away. I was still filling him with lead. I made up my mind he was going down by the weight of lead,
Yeah.
if nothing else. So anyway, while I'm doing that, all of a sudden, I hear somebody say, the skipper say, "Who's firing that 20 millimeter?" And somebody says, "Trott." I'll tell him, get off that goddamn gun. The battle's been over for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And anyway, then they transferred me from there to Buna in New Guinea. And
On shore duty?
Yeah, I ended up working with the Marines. And my job with them when I was attached to the Marines was every time it rained, go out and spray the bushes and keep the snakes down.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I had to do.
Well, by then you must have, you have a bosun mate, third, second. What's your bosun rate by then? I said, when did you get your bosun's rating?
Oh, 'cause I was about my second patrol on the south.
Okay, so you're, what, second class?
But I didn't have to do anything as far as we weren't on a ship. I was on a land base, and I didn't have to do anything like you do on a ship, you know. But
How'd they keep you busy?
huh?
How'd they keep you busy?
Keep you supplied with snakes, I guess.
Huh. Okay, now, when did you head home?
I went home, got stationed at Treasure Round with SP out there, and some interesting experiences out of that.
And you can relate in public?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's have one.
One of them was if you're in San Francisco or California, servicemen can't buy liquor till 5 o'clock. Now, in between every block, there's a little park. Like Market Street is the main hill going up the same thing. So every block, there's a little park with a park bench. And so I'm walking around and I see this young girl playing with a kid. So I'm going over and sit down and make friends. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I haven't got anything to drink. If I did, you know, I'd offer it to you. So she reaches in and pulls a bottle out of here and says, have a drink of mine. So we killed that bottle. Then I said to her, I'm sorry, I can't buy anything until 5 o'clock. She said, well, if you trust me with your money, you watch the baby. It was probably about 8 years old, you know, and I'll go down and get us a bottle. So she went down and got us another bottle. And we got that pretty well gone. She says, I got to take the baby home for supper. And I said, okay. She says she'd like to come home. Come on. I said, all right, well, we'll buy some more whiskey. So it stopped the liquors off, and now it was after 5, so I could buy it. I bought a quart of Old Granddad. I'll never forget that. So I really don't remember what time it was, whether I had a good time or bad time. I know it ended up as a bad time, because about 3 o'clock in the morning, a pounding comes at the door, and I jumps up, throws a sheet around me and goes to the door and says, who's that? The other side of the door says, it's the sheriff. Open up the door. So I open the door, and the woman there says, where's my baby? I said, I don't know. I said, this girl here has got a child. I don't know if that's her or not. So I went like that, and when I went like that, I looked around, there wasn't anybody there. She had left me. She took my uniform that cost me $650, $350 in cash.
Wow,
You know?
that'll teach you.
And so I got robbed, and I guess it was a good time. I can't tell you. I don't remember. So anyway, the cop says, throw a sheet around and come on, we'll go down the station. They took me down, put me in jail. Then the skipper from the base comes over. I'll never forget that. I was sitting in jail and I hear the skipper coming over, walking down the steps. I almost recognize the steps. And I hear him say, "All right, Trott, what'd you do now?"
Good question. And what did you do?
I didn't do anything any normal red-blooded American would do. So I guess that he knows somebody because he talked him into letting me go.
Well, how'd you get dressed if they took your uniform?
All I had was a sheet.
I know, but what did you have for clothes to get out of jail?
Oh, he went and picked me up some clothes.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure you're covered, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, how long were you on there before you had to come home, get leave or discharge from the Navy?
Oh, I was.
When did that happen?
South Weymouth, Mass, pulling the blimps down. I weighed 120 pounds at that time, and I got pulled up one time, and I didn't let go when the air picked the blimp up and went in the air. So while I was hanging on, I took the rope and put it up through here and around my wrist, so I wouldn't let go, you know. So as we come around, they got me off. I never so happy to be crept off. But I kept wanting to go home every night. So I had it passed, and I used to erase the date on it and put a new date in it. Well, it got to the point, I made a hole in the pass.
So you had to stay in shape.
So the Marines finally caught it, and they turned me in the brig, and I was going to get a summary court-martial. And I was standing up there with my head down in front of the skipper, and I hear the skipper say, "Trott, I'm looking at your record, and I don't think any of this is your trouble." Well, that made me feel better, so I picked my head up, looked up, and I thought I was in heaven. There was an officer in front of me running a court that had submarine dolphins on. This was an air base, but yeah, he was an ex-sub commander. And he said, I looked at your whole record and everything. He says, "There's no way you should be in a submarine." You know? So he says, "See those two doors out back of that, in the court?" He says, "Go out back." So I went out there and I stepped out back. As soon as I stepped out back, one guy grabbed me on one side, one guy grabbed me on the other, and they threw me in the ambulance and took me up to the Chelsea Naval Hospital. I was up there for about 6 months, and they discharged me with 50% disability. I was discharged with psychosis anxiety with a psychopathic personality. What that meant, I don't know to this day.
Okay, now after you were discharged, did you join any outfits like the American Legion, VFW, take advantage of the...
I'm past commander of the Gloucester VFW.
Okay.
But not at that particular time. When I first got discharged, the first 6 years, I spent 5 years in different VA hospitals. You know, and they've given me shock treatment and everything else. Didn't do any good. The most important thing they ever did is they sent me to the Boston Bruins, the Celtics, and the Patriots. That did more for me than any medicine did.
Okay, now how did you come to be here? How long have you been here?
I had bought a bike.
Motorbike or pedal bike?
Bicycle with two.
A tandem?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I put it all together and everything. It also had a battery, 38-volt battery. The whole thing cost me about $4,000. So I got it all put together out in the parking lot. And I got it going pretty good, so I wanted to show my caregiver how it runs. And so I went to get on it, and take it up to the front porch, and I foot slipped off of the metal frame, and I went right down, hit my head on the hot tub, had a stroke. I laid there for about 5 hours before somebody knew I was there. Then they took me and took me in the house, put me in bed. I was laying in bed there about 5 more hours, and I remember opening my eyes, looking up at the ceiling, and all I could think of was that ad, "Honey, I'm falling and I can't get up." And I said, "You got that? Well, you got that." I had it right around my neck. So I pushed the button, and about 10 minutes later, an ambulance arrived. My caregiver didn't even know that they were on the way. So then they took me up to the hospital, and
Was that Chelsea Naval or some other hospital?
no, they took me up to North Conway Memorial Hospital. So I was there for 5 or 6 hours. They gave me all kinds of tests, and then while I was there, they said the best we could figure out, you have nerve damage.
How did you come by it? During one of your battles?
No, I don't know. I'd
Okay.
fall off the bicycle, I suppose. But anyway, so I says to him, "At what time does the doctor come in for that?" They said, "We don't have a doctor in that category in this hospital for nerve damage." They said, "The best thing for you is go to Maine Medical." Well, I'm back to your doctor. So I went home, and I'm at home, and I'm thinking, gotta go down to a nursing home here, I guess. So I went down to a nursing home, and I was on what is not Medicare. What else? It's after Medicare.
Medicaid?
Huh?
Medicaid?
Something like that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, I was there for about 4 months, and the head of the nurses wanted to speak to me. So they said, "You're welcome to stay here, but from now on it's going to cost you $13,000 a month." Well, I don't have that kind of money.
You don't?
No.
I'll be damned.
You'd never know it the way I act, right?
I know. I thought you were flat broke. Anyway, then what happened? They gave you a choice, either stay or get. Where'd you go then?
Well, I went home for about 8 weeks. It was in contact with people here. I had been up here at Nova, so I had to wait until the opening come up, and then I come over here.
Okay.
You know? But first of all, I went to White River Junction in Vermont, and VA up there, and I went to my doctor, and so I go in there and put my arm right on the table. My doctor looks and he says, "Oh, what's that?" I said, "I don't know what it is. That's what I'm trying to hear. Have you tell me what it is?" And then he says to me, "Just a minute, I'll be back." He leaves me. He comes back in about 20 minutes and says, "We have a good nerve doctor here, and we're gonna treat you here." So they took me, they put me next door, upstairs in the hospital ward. They gave me as much treatment as they could there. And then one day while I'm in the hospital, it can only happen to me, all these experiences, but I'm in the hospital up at St. John's River, Vermont, and the nurse considers that there's two nurses or two doctors in waiting, so to speak. They're from Maine Medical. They're willing to talk to you about your problems. I said, okay. So they come in, two nice-looking young girls. They were in medical school, and so.
And they doctors, psychiatrists, or what?
Yeah, they're into nerve damage or stuff
Okay,
like that
right.
I had, you know, which I thought was very good. So anyway, so they comes in. Meanwhile, they're talking to me, and the USN, I guess, what you call it at that time, comes in and says, "We got a new bathtub in here, and it's time you had a bath.
Oh,
So we're going to take you in and give you a bath." I said, okay. So one of the nurses says, "Can we come in and watch you take a bath?" Well, I'm 90 years old. When am I going to get a 20-year-old girl ask me to say, "I'm going to put a show on"?
down comes the beep, 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 beep. Okay. Anyway, what's the bottom line?
The bottom line is, I go in there, this new tub, they put you in a bucket. So you go right over the tub, and then they open it and drop you right in the tub of water. So,
They dropped you in free fall?
yeah, free fall right in the water. If the water's warm, you're all right. But anyway, so I'm sitting in this tub, and I'm looking out like that, going around like that. And one of those girls, "What are you looking for?" I says, "A microphone." I said, "What for?" I says, "Are we making a porno?"
Hey, what? I didn't understand you.
"Are we making a porno?"
Oh. No, I hope not. We're not going to do it here either.
Not on government property. So, anyway, that's my experience.
Okay. But are you being well treated here, I would think? Are you being well treated here?
Oh, yes, yeah. This is my final destination.
Okay.
It's going to be my last dealer of cards.
Anything more you'd like to say? As far as how you feel right now?
I feel like 16. I know I'm 91, so I won't try to be 16.
So, but they still got the happy out front? Okay. I got 3 words for you. Thank you, friend,
Thank
for
you.
sharing it with us, okay?
Yeah.
Stay loose. That's a wrap, folks. Again, some young fellow, used to be young, some of his exploits and so forth. Again, I'm reminding you of that if you have a problem, dial 211, the magic link throughout the state. If you'd like to come and do a show, there'll be an address on the back, and if you will, please, come to have a good time. We'll do all we can to make it worth your while. Bob Stevens saying thank you, good night, and goodbye.